Hello. Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope everyone's well. Are you? I would like to hear some noise. I know it's like 4:40 a.m., 4:40 p.m., but how's everyone doing? Okay, at least I see some enthusiasm. Good to know that. So honestly, since the entire day from 9 to 5, we've been hearing this, this buzzword, Gen Zs, multi-generations, and this entire contrast, we have this conflicting view on it. And हमने बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छे panels भी इस पे सुने. We had amazing sessions which actually talked about it with stats and figures and perceptions. But जब हम इस पूरे CONNEX को end कर रहे हैं, especially being our last chapter for this year, I wanted कि let's actually dive deep into it. बहुत सारी बातें कर ली and बहुत सारी अच्छी बातें कर ली कि the good side of this and being positive about it and being a little safe. So let's not play safe anymore and थोड़ा सा unapologetic, a little raw, a little transparent and थोड़ा सच बोल लेते हैं. That's what I'm trying to say. And for that, for the last session of this day, I would request कि जो पूरे दिन आपको entertain करते रहे, हमें host करते रहे, Mr. Omair Rana, I would request your presence to come on stage. Where are you?
Right behind you, yeah.
Always ahead of time. And with that, I would request 4 amazing people who would come not to speak or not to just comment, but actually here to debate on what do we mean when we talk about Gen Zs and we talk about different multi-generations. So, Mr. Bilal, do I see you in the crowd?
Ms. Bilal, there he is.
Yes,
From the back.
please. I would like your presence on stage. Next, do I see Mr. Zishan from Jazz? Apparently very excited for that. And now, अब हमने 2 तो बुला लिए, but now I want to actually hear the raw and the transparent voices. And उसके लिए, with a huge round of applause to Gen Z young ladies, Kinza and Omana from OGDCL. Can we please welcome them with a huge round of applause? Thank you so much for contributing for this debate. And now, all ears.
I forgot very important prop which I brought all the way from the table of, we're talking children a lot
The
today.
bell, of course.
So I robbed this from my 11-year-old daughter's table, which we will do today. Right, the bell, yes.
So
Thank you
now,
very much.
for the next, let's see how many minutes, because it's a debate, kuch pata nahi hai ki how heated it will go or what happens. So we have the moderator right in front of us, and we have 2 groups, for and against. I will not go into further details, and I would hand it over to the moderator himself. Let's see.
Thank you.
Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bisma. Thank you ever so much. ख़वातीन हज़रात, आपसे अब दरख्वास्त नहीं है, थोड़ी सी मैं डिमांड कर रहा हूँ. जो पीछे हमारे साथी बैठे हैं, can I please request you to please stand up? Yeah, go ahead. I'm giving you a moment to stand up. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. Stand up. Yes. Yes, please all stand up. And I would like you to please come further down closer. I want the house to be a little more intimate if you can. These people have come and stayed like you for this particular moment. So I'd request you all to please have been a little closer. Interaction थोड़ी बेहतर होगी, participation होगी. वलीमे वाले सोफे भी खाली हैं, अगर कोई बैठना चाहता है तो ये अच्छा मौका है. Right? So if anyone wants to do that, now is the time. Please go ahead. Please, it's all free. No problems at all. We'd be more than glad. Is that right, guys? We'd be happy if they're closer. Yeah? Zishan, we'd be glad. Yeah?
They can even sit on the carpet in front if
You
they
can sit on
want.
the carpet. It doesn't matter. Yes, we're going to get heated up in any case, hopefully. Right. Now that everyone's settled down, we thought, and I thought in particular, that this subject that we're really going to be approaching, which we've been talking about, as Bisma said, subah se leke ab tak, let's have a debate structure to it. Obviously, how many of you over here, show of hands, have debated in their school, college, university time? Go ahead, raise your hands. There you go, there you go, there you go. Debates, okay. Yeah, there you go. So a structure that many of us are familiar with. By the way, I never got to ask them if they've ever debated, so we'll find out today, all right? Raw. But a very important structure because mubahisa एक इतना खूबसूरत लफ्ज़ है हमारी ज़ुबान में mubahisa, because it's where we can come together to serve you. Now, I will request everyone's attention over here, and in a moment, I'll request everyone to see the QR codes that you will see. You are the judges of the debate. That's how it's going to happen. So what I will do is, if I can request everyone to please just have the QR code. Can we have the QR code up, please? Yeah. If you can just please take your phones out this is imperative. अब ये request नहीं है, ये requirement है. If you can take the QR code up there, वैसे आप लोग भी कर सकते हैं. I'm sure आप लोगों के vote मुझे पता है कहाँ जाएंगे. You're supposed to cast your vote. Today, and as you are getting into that, let me give you the warm-up. We've talked about generations, of course. Baby boomers were called very rigid, and we know who were calling them that. Gen X was labeled very cynical. Yes, we may have been. Millennials were accused of being very entitled, but I think all generations are unequal, but some are more unequal than others. And I think Gen Z is getting a pretty hard, weird kind of a stick, end of the stick, and we've talked about that. We've seen a lot of Gen Z fans in the house, but let's be honest, you and I have come across multiple organizations, people in power and position, even those who are generally considered very easy, very desperate and unsure how to deal with ये कौन सी पौध है, ये कहाँ से आ गई है, इनका क्या करना है. Now, the Gen Z is the first, let's put it in context, first to have a global financial crisis that they didn't cause but inherited. They've had a pandemic, the pandemic, which again 2020, 2021 was around about when the Gen Z started getting in. And there had been a permanently online world where comparison, feedback, and criticisms just never switch off, and hence the anxiety and whatnot we were talking about. Nonetheless, I'll leave the data points to everyone coming over here. It is because of these reasons we are coming together to talk about this first generation who's talking about how, not talking about how do I move up, how do I survive, but they're asking, why does it matter? As was very rightly said a moment ago, who does this cost? And what does it take from me? Therefore, our debate today, you might have already seen on the poll, this house, this house believes today that Gen Z is not failing to fit into workplace culture. Workplace culture is failing to evolve. Proposing the team motion, on my right-hand side, we have Zishan and Umna. And opposing it, we have Bilal and Kiran. Sorry, I did the other side. Proposing the team, we have Bilal and Kiran. Opposing is Zishan and Umna. And we will go with this following structure. Ye aapse darkhwast hai, just follow the structure. I've cut down the time tremendously. You'll be very happy to hear that. We have 4 minutes speech, first from we call the Prime Minister, the opening proposition, then the opening opposition, closing proposition, then closing opposition. Iske baad, the questions come from you. Ji haan, I do want questions, not expect, I demand. Questions coming from you. Questions nahi aayenge, darwaze band rahenge. Seedhi si baat hai. Ghar hi nahi jaane denge. And we'll have a cross questioning at that point. Aakhir mein meri darkhwast hogi from the opposition to sum it up for 1 minute, and the proposition to sum it up for 1 minute. Now you'll understand why I have the bell. So I'll be keeping a time and letting the speakers know as well. Any questions, speakers? No? We're good? Ooh, proposition seems to be very confident. I will now officially open the house, and I would request the first speaker of the proposition, in your applause, Bilal Saab, to start his speech. His 4 minutes will start the moment he starts his speech. In your applause, please, Bilal Saab, opening Prime Minister.
Okay, hello, can you hear me? All right. So this time is not included, right?
Now
Okay.
it starts.
Okay, before we start, I was just sitting at the back, and I was observing one thing which I'm sure all of you have also observed, that the lady who's basically translating everything into words with her hands, she's doing a phenomenal job. How about we do a round of applause for her? I mean, I keep on, seeing them changing amongst each other, because obviously इंसान है, थक जाता है हाथ, हम तो थोड़ी देर बैठ के कमर में दर्द हो जाता है. A really good job for them. And secondly, the topic, Gen Zs. Okay, I will start off with a few things, in which I would like to know, ladies and gentlemen, what is the constant thing in life? Change. The only constant thing in life is change, which is inevitable. Whether you like it or not, whether you practice that or not, change is going to happen, right? If you want to achieve something different, you have to do something different. Isn't that so? Am I right or am I right? Where are my Gen Zs, by the way? You are? Yes, you definitely are. I mean, I would like to know by the clap, sound of the clap. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Right. So, if you want to get something different, you have to do something different. That's exactly the phenomena behind the Gen Zs, right? If you want to make them work, you have to provide them with the opportunities that they require. Isn't that so? Ladies and gentlemen, below 30, engagement rates are very low in employees, and the turnover rates are also very high. If Gen Zs were a fail, they would fail everywhere. But how come they work very well when there are organizations that provide them the avenues, the leadership styles change? They work like anything. How come? How does that happen? Right? So if one thing is failing somewhere, then there is something wrong somewhere. Maybe it's the culture that's failing them. What happens? Culture, हम क्या करते हैं? बड़ा खूबसूरत सा नाम दे देते हैं. We have like a very good, monogram or motto of the company. And we give them the state-of-the-art environment to work at. But if we don't give them the culture, if we don't provide them the opportunities to grow, they will not stay with you for long. 70% of Gen Zs, and that's backed by data, not my own phenomena, 70% of Gen Zs are basically ready to leave the position because they don't see purpose in that. And somebody in the panel was also talking about that a while ago. If they don't find purpose, they will leave. Because they have ample opportunities available. They have many more avenues to explore rather than staying at a place where they're not comfortable. अगर हम सिर्फ ये देखेंगे कि टाइम कितना गुजारा उसने कंपनी में, आउटपुट नहीं देख रहे, then it's going to be a total loss. We will not be able to sustain those people with us. अगर हम सिर्फ ये देखें कि इस बंदे ने टाइम पूरा किया 9 to 5, उसको हम ज़्यादा प्रेस करेंगे, और जिसने आउटपुट ज़्यादा दिया, we don't cater for that person, we have lost him. Right? Data says that those people who get regular feedback are more engaged, more productive. But what's happening with us? सालाना yearly appraisal, साल के एंड में पता चलता है कि क्या किया क्या नहीं किया. भाई मुझे constant feedback चाहिए. So blaming that Gen Zs are not performers and not changing our own selves, our own systems. Yes, Gen Zs will retaliate against the backward systems. So we need to change the systems, and we need to be able to sustain the Gen Zs. So I guess my time is up.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to raise a question before we proceed. The first speaker of the proposition did talk about purpose, whatnot, echoing something that we've heard already. But all that is fine, all that is good. I would like to hear your perspective on this. What about in the feedback when it comes to accountability and then mental well-being, which seems to be something that sometimes is accused to be hiding behind? What about standards that need to be maintained? How, or should we just change everything for Gen Z?
As I mentioned, change is inevitable, right? We have to make changes. We cannot change everything 360 entirely. Like Gen Zs want purpose. They want accountability. They want to strive. Somebody was saying in the panel that they are not concerned about maternity or paternity leaves. They are more concerned about मुझे अभी क्या मिल रहा है. I'll give you a small example if you allow me. This IT tech organization, its CEO was 29 years old, right? And its board members comprising of kids 22, 23 years. In a meeting, they were like discussing something, and the board member had something against, the thing that was being decided, and he tells his 29 years old CEO that, Kashif, yaar, you're too old for this, you won't understand. So you're getting my point? So basically, they want control, they want power, they want leadership qualities to be engraved in them. They want D&I to be engraved in their culture, not just for the sake of hiring female employees or maintaining different quotas. They want to be part of the organization's decision-making system as well.
Right. Thank you very much. Round of applause for the first speaker of the proposition. I'd like you to please welcome the first speaker of the opposition. Let's hear Zishan, if he can refute, address, or just have a counter argument to the entire motion itself. Zishan, your 4 minutes start the moment you begin.
Thank you, Omair, and thank you, Bilal, for opening up the debate. It's interesting that you started with saying that change is inevitable. I cannot refute that. I completely agree. And when we talk about the Gen Z and the current state of a workforce and workspaces, I see a lot of evolution that the industries have gone through in the last 50 years. So the change is inevitable, and the industries have been changing with the changing generations from day one. Even if you look at the recent decade, which also includes the COVID era, we've seen a rapid adoption of technology within all organizations. That was the demand of the generation at the time. We saw technology and digitization in all organizations. We saw a lot of acceptance of diversity, because that was also the demand of the generation. And eventually we saw the workplace that now gives hybrid workforce to everyone, because that's what Gen Z is right now demanding. So when we talk about change and when we say that the organization needs to change for Gen Z, how much do you want the organizations to change? They are changing. There's sufficient evidence to support that. Having said that, I do not undermine the value that Gen Z brings. I myself have a team of Gen Zs, and honestly, the output is outclass. No doubt about that. We're many here. There's one sitting right next to me. I had a conversation with her. Outclass. So I don't undermine that at all. But I draw a very fine line in terms of, in order to build and in order to sustain this relationship with the workplace, between a workplace and a Gen Z employee, both need to come to a middle ground. And the evidence suggests that the organizations already are doing that. So Gen Z has to now also understand the intricacies of the current work realities. Coming to the change and just sharing some traits of the Gen Z that the research has given us, and how organizations of today have evolved around those. So for instance, I will just talk about the current Gen Z is known to be digital native, because they were born in an era when digital was already there. Everyone has a phone. So they're digital native. Today's organization, maybe we can self-reflect. Which of our organizations is not a digital organization? Are we not using digital tools? Did we not use Teams when the COVID came? Do we not use digital tools to communicate within our organizations? We do. So the digital nativeness of our Gen Z is being catered for. We've made that change. Coming to the next one, they value work-life balance. I agree. 60% of Pakistani organizations have hybrid models in place. For whom? For this population. So the organizations are changing. However, when we say that some Gen Z, not all by the way, they prefer communicating over digital platform and they do not prefer socializing, I think that hampers the culture. I think that's where we draw the line. They need to come out of this shell of hiding behind a screen and have a conversation. You need to come out, build that social skill, because with the AI in place, you see that human connection becomes even more important in 10 years' time. And hence we need to train and assimilate these new generation coming in into our workforce better. That's all. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Zishan. Zishan, it's all great that you have been pandering to your great Gen Z team, which I'm acknowledging their contributions, but really the question does apply. Is it fair for us to say that there seems to be an extension to the millennial entitlement that we're passing on to Gen Z, like a millennial entitlement 2.0 has come in Gen Z? And why draw the line? Why not change to the point and say, okay, fine, we will meet you on the screen and not in person? Why not make that change, which is being said?
So I think the entitlement needs to be addressed the way it is. So for instance, your Gen Z population has the lowest number of tenure, lowest amount of time in a tenure in a role of all the generations that we've seen. They look, and Bilal also mentioned that, they look for jobs in 6 months' time without going over the curve of the learning curve of that job. And they feel that it's not exciting enough for me, so I need to move on. That, I wouldn't call it entitlement, it's actually lack of understanding of the realities of a workplace. So I wouldn't call it entitlement. That's like undermining their presence and existence. I really appreciate and respect them and the weight and the value that they bring to us. But we need to also draw the line and say, you come to us, you learn from us, you deliver, we will give you a progression. Maybe not, you won't get promoted in maybe 5 years like I did 10 years ago. Maybe you'll get promoted in 3 years. So we can do that for you. But don't expect to get a new role every 6 months. Big organizations don't work like that. A startup can, and the startup does. Bilal, you gave an example of a 29-year-old CEO. Is that 29-year-old CEO running Karachi Stock Exchange 100 company? No. Those companies are driving the population of the economy of the country.
That's
and we need to
basically the main
respect.
thing.
We'll address that later. You'll get the opportunity later.
And we need to respect the fact that the organizations that are really adding value to the landscape of this country, to the economy of this country, they need to be respected. Right. They will evolve, because if they don't, they will become a dinosaur. Okay. They understand that, but they will evolve at their own terms.
Right. Great. Thank you. I mean, I must comment though, I don't know if anyone caught that, but I had an advantage point over here while Zishan was talking about the Gen Zs giving up before they go over the climax of the Umnak expressions would be very appropriately caught by an emoji with the teeth out, you know? It's like, oh, really? Is that who we are? Folks, I would like to please display the result that we had of your voting before the debate began. Can I please have the results? This is the result of you on what you think is where you stand. The House today stands at this. In the beginning of the debate, it's a whopping 78% agreeing with the proposition in the beginning. 15% have been disagreeing with the motion, and 7% is undecided. So I'm going to just write this down. Please make sure that you guys write it down as well, because really this is where the result's going to come from. 78, 15, and 7. The winner of the debate will be, after the debate is done, can you please reset this? And we'll have this poll again. Whichever side has made the greatest dent, have made the greatest delta, that side will win. So get ready to listen more intently as the debate heats up further. You knew how Bilal wanted to jump in. I'm so excited to hear what Bilal has to say about that. But lean in, listen up, reset the polls, please, and let's put your hands together for the second speaker of the proposition. Can you please come on? Kinza, sorry. Yeah. Kinza, can you please take on?
Thank you
for correcting me. I apologize.
Yeah, that's okay. Zishan, you talked about how a lot of organizations changed and brought a lot of acceptance with COVID, you mentioned, right? But I would argue that that change should not have been temporary, because I would then put into context how the Gen Z was introduced in the working environment itself. And then you also talked about we need to reach a middle ground, because there are multi-generations working currently in organizations. But middle ground itself, to me, is an evolution in itself, right? So it is far from where the organizations are currently standing, especially here in Pakistan. And then going back to the contest that I want to build, I'm just going to acknowledge that in 2019, COVID hit, many of us were completing our education. We were introduced into our early professional training during that time. And this period was it was defined by remote learning and very disruptive mentoring and virtual onboarding. And that's how the Gen Z was introduced to the offices, as compared to way before they were actually introduced to the traditional cultural workplaces. So for them, this is what work culture is and what it should be. And we were introduced to the workforce and we saw it as a very outcome-based workforce. And the workplace had to be outcome-based, not based on the current systems. They focus a lot on the time that you're giving to the company. They they tend to reward capability. They tend to reward the time that you've spent 9 to 5 over the capability and skills that you've built, and your presence in the premises as compared to the productivity that you're showing, and your compliance as compared to bringing innovation to the system. Right? And these standards, I argue, are obsolete, and they're not just failing Gen Z as a generation, but also the Gen X, the millennials, and the senior leadership itself. So at the same time, this generation is coming in and it's entering a workforce that's being reshaped by AI, right? So roles are evolving much faster than traditional career paths can ever accommodate. And that's why we get bored with one role so soon, because we want to experience new things, because we know how fast the evolution is happening. And so in this context, prioritizing work-life sustainability and whatever the Gen Z is demanding is not just a preference. I think it's a need of the hour for the organizations. And I'll also talk a little bit of data, and I'll tell you that across industries and geographies, the three priorities have been seen to be emerging. According to surveys, Deloitte conducted a survey which says that 70% of Gen Z prioritize continuous learning over anything else. And less than 25% are hoping to see to climb up the corporate ladder, as you say, and they see senior leadership. They don't see senior leadership as their end goal. And I said leadership, sorry. Okay, so well-being and flexibility for them is consistently ranking right alongside pay and culture, right? So it's not, I would say it's not laziness, it's just a shift in how the ambition is now being observed. And I think, yeah, so I think that this debate is not about indulging one generation over the other. It's mostly about evolution and effectiveness for organizations themselves. And this the work culture that's currently in place, it was built for a world that no longer exists. And Gen Z is simply making that mismatch very much more visible. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much. A round of applause for our second speaker. Proposition has been pretty vehemently refuting the opposition's point. You know what? I'll just put you on the spot. Kinza, if you were, of all the resistance you've received and heard right now, if you were to draw the line that this is non-negotiable and Gen Zs need to fall in line in this, where would you draw the line?
For me, it's about, I can't sit in that place from 9 to 5, okay, and not do any work. Give me work, I'll give you results, and then leave me alone. If you need work, I'm there. If you don't need it, I don't have to be there.
But that's your line. I'm talking about the line that is already existing. We'll say, you know what, I'll give in to this. Ye aapki baat sahi hai. Where do you accept that line to draw? Yep.
Okay, so I think accountability, structure, and consistency is definitely very important. Okay. But it's what those standards are optimized for that's more important to me. So the standards themselves need to evolve a bit, and the consistency, accountability, they need to be there, but need to evolve with time.
Right. Thank you very much. A round of applause for the second speaker proposition. With that, I'm going to call in the last speaker of the debate right now. Second speaker opposition. We have Umna over here. Umna, your time will start the moment you begin. Let's see how you can refute everything they have to say, and if there's anything you can develop to go against the motion.
Right, so following up on this, and as a Gen Z myself, I would like to reiterate that if workplace culture was reluctant to change, hybrid workforces would have never survived the pandemic. As we've already talked about it, hybrid work culture was started during the pandemic, and it has been since going on. It's not like we've went back to the non-hybrid mode. So the change is evolving, and hybrid culture is like one of the examples of that. Beyond that, we've seen some major changes in the policies. Currently, mental health awareness is part of the HR policies. There are some major shifts in the DEI frameworks. We are seeing paternal leaves, which was not a mainstream norm like few years back, but we're seeing that. So again, the change is constant, and the organizations are also evolving with that change. I also like to say that currently the workplaces are they are having multi-generations working, like three generations working under one roof simultaneously. So just to demand that the policies or the organization structure be tailored to, cater to the needs of Gen Zs I don't think it is a sustainable or even a realistic option. We are having three generations working together. We have to accommodate all of them, and we have to make a way out of it that all three generations are working together and they're working in a coherent manner, not just making the Gen Zs in the limelight or making them the villains who are enforcing the organizations to change. Even historically, if you see that every generation has had to go through this change when they're transitioning into their professional lives. It's not just that Gen Zs are struggling with that. Even the Gen X or Gen Alphas, once they stepped into the professional lives, they also had to go through certain changes. They had to make certain adjustments. I think it is more in the limelight right now, the term Gen Z, or how they are, bringing change into the organization. But it was just not visible at that time. Even the millennials or the Gen X, they also had to go through certain changes. They had to make certain adjustments when they were stepping into the workforce. So I think it has been there, and the companies and the organizations have always been changing and have also always been conducive of the upcoming workforce. And these norms are just here to build resilience, I would say. You cannot call workplaces, you cannot equalize them as social clubs. They are workplaces. They have certain professional boundaries. They have certain professional norms, and those are just to build resilience. You cannot always be in your comfort level. When you have to grow, you have to sort of beat that. You have to beat your comfort level. Only then you can you can grow and you can strengthen your position. So again, these adjustments, I think they come both ways. There are certain times where the organizations have to make accommodations for the upcoming generation, and vice versa. The Gen Zs, they also have to not be so rigid about it. They have to be accommodating enough to. They have to know that they're stepping into a professional life and they have to act a certain way. So I think that's about it.
Right. Thank you, Amna. Thank you very much. Is it a fair demand that the adaptation should be expected only from the employee? Does the leader or the manager, and I'm talking at even the micro level, because there's a lot of frustration that people are expressing, do they have no responsibilities to adaptation?
No, again, I think it goes both ways. आपकी कोई requirements हैं, मेरी कोई requirements हैं. We have to reach a middle ground again. दोनों तरफ से adjustments की requirements हैं. So I think that's that.
So is it fair to say कि I need to accommodate much more for you rather than you coming even midway?
Yeah, I think क्योंकि organization established norms के ऊपर चल रही है, policies के ऊपर चल रही है. And as a newcomer, I don't think you have that type of say कि आप अपने आप को इतना accountable कर लो कि I think आपको once you're stepping into a new place, you are the one who has to make the compromise. You are the one who has to make the adjustments.
All right, great. Thank you very much. A round of applause. Folks, here we take a few minutes and we need a few questions from the house. If you need, remember, the undecided voters are particularly the ones you'd be targeting, and you've got 7% of that. You take any side takes most of that, they win. You can always sway the others back as well. The undecideds, particularly if you have a particular question, would be more than welcome. Is there a question in the house that we can? Yes, we have a question over there. Sir, please, if you could identify yourself and the question, who you want to direct it to.
Hi, my name is Omair Rana. I am a founding partner for a startup, and startups were mentioned. So, and there was also some talk about, so my question is to the panel on the left.
The opposition.
Right?
Right.
I understand the concerns. I manage a big bunch of Gen Z people. I have to re-engineer my thoughts. I have had to change myself as a human being to manage them. But just because it's a big corporation does not give us a green check to not change the structures on how we're going to manage this generation. This is a generation. They're not going anywhere. I'm from a different generation, and my generation was never in such a magnifying glass as this generation. So firstly, I think we're being a bit unfair by constantly talking about them.
And
secondly, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that whether it's a large organization such as a public listed company, or whether it is a small startup such as I am, we have to find a way, because it's a generation. They're not going anywhere. So happy to learn more about what we can do to instill them in the workforce.
All right, so essentially, at the end, tail end, after jabbing you with his dagger, he's asked you a question, would like to hear your perspectives, right? I'm sure that dagger must have been motivated by the great changes that he's had to make himself, but there you go.
So I think what we're getting wrong here is the type of work varies from organization to organization. And also the type of Gen Z varies with the region that you're a part of. If you're leading a tech firm in the heart of Islamabad where you're hiring just from Nust, or maybe a couple of more organizations, and your majority workforce is a 22, 23-year-old age, then yes, you have to operate in a different setting. Imagine the same concepts that you've employed in your organization in a plant somewhere in the central part of Sindh, where they're making vaccines, for instance. Do you really think that the culture there will drastically change? Do you really think that the assembly line and the operations around it will drastically change? Yes, there will be minor changes. I do not say that, I've never said that don't change. I'm saying there will be changes. But if a Gen Z comes into that role in Sindh and says, I want this work to be exciting, you won't get that there. You want an exciting job? Go work for a marketing firm if you have to. That's an exciting job. You can get along with people there. So when we say that organizations are not changing, by the way, the topic of discussion is that the corporates and the workforce is failing to adapt. And I'm against this word that it's not failing to adapt. It is adapting as much as it should. But the Gen Z is failing to understand what the norms of the organizations currently are.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Is there another question in the house? And again, this is an opportunity for both sides to question each other as well. But there's a lady over there waving vehemently who has proudly claimed to be Gen Z.
But I'm not.
Yes?
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes. But is the mic on? Can we hear her?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. And
Assalamu
आपका सवाल, please introduce yourself. और सवाल किस तरफ है, please बताइए.
My name's Yusra, and my question is with the team opposing
Right.
this.
This could be positive, by the way. These
Yeah,
could be
this
the
could be
undecided voters you could get back. Yes, please.
So, as I feel it when I hear it, I feel like we're making it sound more like a curse than just a generation that is Generation Z, my younger siblings, I would say. मैं खुद तो millennial हूँ, but yes, मेरे छोटे siblings हैं जो Gen Z हैं. The point is, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है that we are somehow referring to these people more as commodities than as people at workplace. So, मैंने as millennial ये नहीं सुना था अपने बड़ों से कि कोई problem होगा मुझे लेकर. But we have, I think millennials have more problems than from Gen Z than the Gen X has, because they were more adaptive and they were more accommodating. I just want to know कि हम as enablers, क्या हम insecure हैं as millennials from the Gen Z? Are we insecure that they're going to somehow replace us at workplaces? Because we have to agree that they're smarter, they are agile, they know how to use technology, yes, and they know how to use knowledge also. Technology doesn't just bring them whatever AI brings them.
So your
to
question is,
enable- yeah.
are the previous generations intimidated? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. The opposition, either of you can address that. Do you think, is your perception that the previous generations perhaps are intimidated by Gen Z? I'd love to hear from you as well, but Zishan can comment on it. This question was directed to you. You guys can always jump in afterwards.
Yeah, so I'll answer that with my own experience. I very much think so. The millennials are somewhat insecure, I don't know, or maybe reluctant to to
Oh, you're losing millennial votes right now.
maybe reluctant to pass on the knowledge because their notion is that we've had this seat for like हमने इसके लिए बहुत कोशिश की है और हम इस सीट के ऊपर हैं तो like we are more entitled or the newcomers they are just they might be here around for like थोड़े दिन के लिए हैं then चले जाएंगे also that idea कि they won't be sticking around so हम इनको सिखा के क्यों अपना time waste करें this is what I've experienced myself so
But then are you willing to stick around? That is the core of the question, isn't it? Are you willing to stick around? That's the
so
question.
again that changes that varies from person to person and also I think we might stick around अगर हमारी organization अगर इस case में हम बात करें तो I think अगर conducive environment मिलेगा तो क्यों नहीं stick around करेंगे
And you're saying that they are changing toward that environment to do so. Zishan, you want to
Can I
jump in or
comment?
shall we get Bilal? Yeah, yes, let's hear it from the
Okay,
proposition.
so the thing is, millennials see Gen Zs as a threat, right? So naturally, it's a natural instinct that they start working against them. What they need to do is they need to start working with them so that they can obtain the overall goal, whatever the organization's goal is or the personal goal is. Because Gen Zs are, as the gentleman just said, it's not just one or two persons, it's an entire generation, right? So you cannot actually resist a generation and you need to provide them avenues that will basically make you and your organization grow together, not against each other.
Right, great. Zishan, you want to jump in? Go ahead. We'll take one more question after this.
So
Ji.
I don't agree that millennials are intimidated. I
Nice.
don't agree that millennials are working against Gen Z. These are huge claims. There's no data backing it. I've never seen a research that says that millennial is against Gen Z. They're struggling to understand the norms. I agree.
Okay.
That's
The reason data is not available because millennials are not letting the data come out. Yeah, you know?
We now have a conspiracy theory
Yeah.
against the millennials.
well. I won't comment into it
Who is
because
basically controlling the data?
I don't. The data is being controlled by organizations that are as small as that. That gentleman
Yeah,
is
but what
running,
he just said,
which is run by Gen Z.
In his response, you just mentioned something about sin. So, I mean, you know,
Yeah. But
So-
he disagrees with that. Right, go ahead.
So I don't think that claim is valid, unless you show me some data to claim that I am working against my team. Why would I do that when my KPI is on the line? Why would I work against a Gen Z? So I think that's a flawed claim on its own. Are we insecure? Is your question? I don't think so. Are you insecure? Most people sitting here are millennials. You're leading teams. Are you guys insecure? I just told you that half of my team is Gen Z. I just told you that they're brilliant at what they do. It's the matter of building that relationship. The organization and an employee start building that relationship on day one when they sign that contract. As a millennial, I'm willing to do anything to build that relationship with the team. But if the team comes to me every 6 months and say, listen, I'm bored. I don't feel connected to the organization. And then if I ask them, what does that even mean? And there's no response, I just don't feel it. Meri vibe match nahi kar rahi. How do you respond as millennials to meri vibe match nahi kar rahi? Right? So, and not everyone does it. As HR, what we need to do is identify the Gen Z that works for us and the Gen Z that cannot assimilate into the organization. And that's true for all generations. I might not be able to get into your organization, for instance, because my culture, my vibe doesn't match there, right? So we need to have a better structure in place to identify the capability that individual brings in, rather than looking at the generation and then getting foiled by कि यार इसको मैं manage कैसे करूँगा? So organizations have done enough. They keep doing enough. I'm part of an organization that is doing a lot. If you guys know the Moblink of 10 years ago and the Jazz of today, it's a different organization. And what more do you want us to do? What more do you want the organizations to do? So I think the onus does not lie on the organizations, all of it. There's a responsibility that goes to the Gen Z
Gen Zs
to
as well.
understand the
Right.
career and how it progresses.
Right, great, thank you. We have one last question from the house. I'm going to take two. Let's make it quick, though, right? We have a very quick question, quick answers. Go.
So
Please
Hello
identify
everyone.
yourself and who
My
you
name
want
is
to ask.
Manahil, and I'm from NAST, final year student. So when you talk about the vibe and the entire thing, don't you think in corporate you need to make room for the vibe? For example, I as a Gen Z,
What is
I
the
like
vibe?
to-
What's the vibe?
I like the. I think the vibe for me is questions. Like I like to question things. Why we're doing this? What's the mission behind it? What's the motive behind it? And people like yourself, the millennials, which you call them, I think they never question things. They were just.
So let me just
following-
translate it for you. I think it was lost in translation. We today found out a vibe could be I want a space where we can question. Can the organizations give them room for question? Yes or no?
100%.
Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
That's
Which
two.
organization is not doing that? Raise of hands.
Giving room for question. Not giving room for question. Fauji Foundation here? Raise your hands, guys. All right. Okay. Now,
I have a question too,
And,
if that is
just like the
addressed.
second part. You
sorry,
talked
I
about-
need to ask other people as well.
It's
So
just a
let's
really
get some other
short one.
voices. I'm so sorry. I may be killing your vibe right now, but I really need to get some more.
I
Get
just
some
need
more
to
vibes.
put a point forward.
If I get the time, I'll come back to you. I had a gentleman over
My
here who has a
question
mic.
is still
Where's the lady?
pending.
Can you raise your hands? I can
I
give the voice
am
of
here.
God. Ah, there you are. Yes.
Okay, so my question, do I need to introduce
Proposition,
myself?
opposition?
Also? My question is to Bilal.
Ah.
Okay. So I want to ask you, why is this so that generally as a society, not just in profession, Gen Z seems to be really entitled that everything has to change for them? And since you're saying that the organizations are failing to adapt, can you please tell me, like, in this room, how many of the organizations had flexible work, like 20 years back, 10 years back? How many of them had paid maternity leave? Paternity leave was a concept that was unheard of at least till 3 to 5 years back in Pakistan. So now we know these things are in practice, are being followed by many of the organizations. So definitely there is visible adaptation. And the Gen Z says that we can't see any adaptation, but the millennials have seen that transition, and that is why we expect them to understand that there is a lot of adaptation that has happened and is continuously happening.
Right. So the question that you're really asking is, Bilal, has the adaptation dramatically happened or not? With the examples you've cited, like paternity leave, etc. So that's a yes or no, really, isn't it?
Okay, to answer your question, nothing happens dramatically and all of a sudden. Everything takes time, right? And the supreme example of that is COVID. COVID taught us so many things, right? Maternity leave, paternity leave, and other leaves that we have in our organizations. Gen Zs are not basically wanting those leaves because they are just out of the universities. They are just there, you know, they want to earn and they want to enjoy their life.
Okay.
They want to spend their weekends with their friends. When maternity and paternity leave time comes, then, I mean, they will see.
But would you agree that the organizations have dramatically changed?
Organizations are changing, but with change, everyday change, even the Gen Zs are changing and their demands are increasing.
Kinza, you seem to be disagreeing to this. You think organizations have not dramatically changed? Is what
I think that maybe to millennials or to someone who's been with them for a long time, they have dramatically changed. But I think that the pace of evolution has also dramatically increased. It's exponentially increased.
Okay.
So our acceptance has also, you know,
All right, so the pace is increased,
skyrocketed.
but millennials and Gen X who have been witnessing the change could change it. Gen Z abhi aaya, they didn't see any change. Enough, right. We have one last question from the house, and then we need to wrap up with your speeches, 1 minute each. Get them ready. Janab, introduce yourself, and who would you like to ask the question? एक दिन ये mic चल जाएगा, आप फिक्र ना करें.
Hello.
Yes, I told you.
My name is Fezan, and I just
Faizan.
want to ask a question.
Two,
from
the proposition or the opposition?
Opposition.
Opposition, बहुत chances हैं votes लेने के. जी.
Yes, the question is that he was asking about a data which is backing that we are supporting the Gen Z or any generation or not.
Okay.
There was a data back in 2011 and 10, a Nokia, which is the king of the company, the mobile company on that moment, was leading the chart. But what happened? Why they downfall? Why they?
Because they didn't get enough Gen Zs.
No, it's not about the Gen Z. It's about the idea or the space or the vibe question which she mentioned that. Most probably, that about was a creativity and innovation, which they needs to.
So your question is that the organizations did not adapt enough, and those who don't adapt, they die out? Yeah? Is that what you're saying, Zia? Yeah? So, opposition, how would you address
नोकिया जिस टाइम पे बंद हुई थी तब जेन जी 11 साल का था, तो उसका वर्क प्लेस से कोई ताल्लुक नहीं है. उनकी बिजनेस स्ट्रैटेजी की वजह से वो बंद हुई थी, एंड आई एम श्योर यू कैन रिसर्च दैट. करंट करंट वर्कफोर्स में जो इस वक्त अर्लीस्ट जेंजी है और खातून की अगर हम बात करें वो 25 से 26 साल की हैं. That's an age where most females in Pakistan needs a maternity leave. So that's your flawed argument that it's not the demand.
I think
Number three, if one thing that has really happened if you talk about Gen Z is more and more flexibility and work-life balance. Organizations like Jazz themselves have recently, if I just forget about the maternity leave and the 6 months maternity leave that we now offer, we have now 30 working days of annual leaves, which is 45 calendar days or more. How much flexibility do you want us to give to the Gen Z? I mean, if we look at the emotional part of things and just go with the flow and say Gen Z ke liye badalna hai, of course badalna hai. Factually speaking, we're all HR leaders here. We're doing enough. Stop saying that we're failing to change for Gen Z. Please be lenient on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself.
All right, great. Bilal, you wanted to say something?
No, I'm
All right, great. Sorry, I need to wrap this up, but you can please take this offline. I'm glad that you people have questions right now. There should be questions you should be seeking answers of. There is AI that can help you as well as these guys. But I'd like to now go to the opposition and request them to sum up their case in 1 minute. And then I'll come to the proposition and sum up their case for 1 minute. And you guys get ready. After this, I need you to vote, and we will see the difference, and the difference will decide the winner, right? लेकिन शहादत देनी है आपने, favoritism नहीं करनी, all right? So your 1 minute starts.
No one is denying the fact that Gen Z is the upcoming population within the workforce. If we want to be productive in our roles, we need to really understand what they need and adapt. 100% agree. The fact that I'm bringing forward every time is that we've been doing that for the last 10 years. We've been accelerating that for the last 5 years with the recent policy changes that we're making. We're giving them space to speak by coming up with conferences like this, where they sit, listen to the leaders sitting here, and ask questions. This is an opportunity which I did not have when I was entering the workforce. So we are doing enough. HR is doing enough. Industries are evolving at their own pace. An individual needs to accept, respect, and adapt to the changing organizations, or rather than the other way around.
Right on cue. Thank you, Zishan. Round of applause for the opposition. Summing that up. And I'd now like to give the mic to the proposition. You have 1 minute to sum up your case. Your time starts now.
Okay, I would like to reiterate, this debate is not about Gen Z fitting in. It's about whether our workplaces are fit for the future or not, right? HR has always been a bridge between humans, people, employees, and the systems. If workplace culture doesn't evolve, it's not the Gen Z that is going to suffer, the organizations are. Right?
Well, that's not the topic of discussion, but okay.
Right, let's not have that crosstalk right now. But a round of applause for the opposition. Let me remind you all, the House now is going to be opening back to you the moment. Let me just sum this up for a bit for you to do so. Please remember, we were talking today, the major question for the topic was Gen Z is not failing to fit into workplace culture. Workplace culture is failing to evolve. What we have talked about, and let me just give a summary before I request you all to give your final votes. Empathy is not an agreement. Empathy is an effort. And effort is uncomfortable. Now this goes both ways. If you're misinterpreting me, I want you to interpret it correctly. And you need to understand that empathy is not distributed equally either, neither is power. So each one of them will have their own responsibilities and their own roles to play. And I'm not saying that you should bend the standards and, as was agreed upon, not hold people accountable, etc. But it's beyond just that. I mean, if culture is something we inherited, then leadership is deciding what we pass on. Because ये हमारी मलकियत नहीं है, ये हमारी अमानत है. And we have to pass it on perhaps faster with each coming generation than before. And the real question really isn't whether Gen Z fits our culture, it's whether our culture is strong enough to hold differences without breaking. At this point, I would like you to please take your phones out, get on that QR code right now, and I will be giving a moment for everyone to vote in and that data to accumulate, because once that data is accumulated, आप भी कर सकते हैं उसे, वो पहले कर चुके हैं, right? Then we will see the delta once I've closed the polling. I will not announce it right now. अभी नहीं, अभी polling खुली है, अभी हम data नहीं दिखा रहे. The delta would be made when it is shown. Anyone needs 1 more minute to vote? Anyone minutes, 30 seconds to vote? With your permission, then I'm closing the vote. You need 1 minute? All right, I'm giving 15 seconds. You guys go so fast, right? Apparently. You're fast, the internet is slow. Go ahead. I'll bear with you. Yeah, another 30 seconds to cast to finalize your vote. All right. Now, before I display the result, I need to announce there was a soft poll done on LinkedIn, and for the motion was 81%, against the motion was 15%, and undecided was 4%. This house was roundabout similar before the debate began. You were 78% for the motion, 15%, 15% against, and 7% undecided. And this is as transparent as it can be, all by Form 45 and 47 coinciding. Now I'd lock the polls and the results are on the screen. I'm seeing it with you. Oh, the disagreement is 50%. Agreement has dropped to 47%, and the undecided are 3%. ये तो काया पलट गई, right? And to know that, I don't even need to calculate the delta. The delta is earth-shattering. And to know that we had in the house so many Gen Zs who were voting as well. And a lot of tut happening with fellow Gen Zs on this side. तुम लोगों ने हमारे कमर में खोपा है खंजर. But I think it is the discussion that is imperative to be had. And I'm really glad to both sides, and your round of applause, please join me in thanking the two sides. We had Bilal, Tinsa, Omna and Zishan, to contribute earnestly the conversation जो हमें करनी चाहिए. और खुले दिमाग से आप लोगों ने सुना, तो from all of us to you, a round of applause for the House, that you received it and voted generously and honestly. Conversation जारी रखें. I hope you've taken some meat from this point. और मैं सिर्फ एक चीज़ कहूँगा, Gen Zs have been raised by Gen X, ones who could not question their parents and now can't question their children. Gen Alpha को आने दो, फिर हम तुम्हें देखेंगे. All right? Thank you very much, and thank you ever so much to my debaters here. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, and I'm sure everyone enjoyed. And if you did, please let's have a round of applause for this amazing debate. I would request if you all could just stay on the stage for just 15 more seconds, please. And if I can request Mr. Mustafa Zaglol, please, if you can join us, and we can get the mementos on stage.